want a little more space in my garage shop, so I decided to build a 4-foot by 8-foot lean-to shed to store my lawnmower and other landscaping equipment. In this video, I'll show you how I made a sturdy foundation without going too far over the top. Our HOA requires detached structures like this to be hidden from the street, so I chose the front corner of our fence for the shed location. It's hard to tell on video, but the slope in this area has about a 4-inch drop over an 8-foot span, so I started by digging down a good 7 to 8 inches on the high end and gradually leveled it out as I moved toward the other end. As you saw in the opening shot, the foundation is a simple frame of ground contact 4x4s with a runner down the middle, so I dug 3 trenches to make room for a gravel bed. I then used a tamper to compact the soil and then made sure the trenches were at least somewhat level, and I'll be able to address any variations in the slope with gravel in the next step. I started this project with about 6 bags of gravel, and that was a huge underestimate because I needed about 22 total. I spread the gravel out along the trenches using a rake and built it up to about 4 inches below the ground because I want the foundation to be about flush with the ground once this is all complete. With the gravel bed laid, I placed the 3 long 4x4s in the trenches and again checked for level. Here I was a bit more particular and moved the gravel around to make the timbers not only level from side to side, but also compared to each other, so this step actually took quite a bit of time. Next, I cut off 7 inches of the middle 4x4s so the short ends of the foundation could fit inside the long ends and make a perfect 4x8 frame that I'm shooting for. My saw's blade depth is a little over 2 inches, so I had to take 2 passes, but a speed square makes it a lot easier to make the 2 cuts line up accurate. To connect the timbers, I used 6-inch exterior grade lag screws, and I drilled a couple pilot holes to make driving them in just a little easier. With the outside of the frame connected, I did the same thing to attach the center 4x4, and I started to lose daylight, so I called it a day. On day 1, this took me about 3 hours. I had a couple free hours in the morning later that week, and I had to clear the foundation of snow and ice, which is a rare occurrence in Middle Tennessee. Even though the 4x4s are rated for ground contact, I wanted to avoid them being surrounded by soil, so I used more gravel around the foundation and then used a shovel to pack the gravel under and around the timbers. Once I was comfortable with the amount of gravel around the inside cavities, I used some landscape fabric to separate the earth from what will eventually be the floor of the shed. I then spread the last couple bags of gravel to keep the barrier in place, and since my materials hadn't yet been delivered, which included another 8 bags of gravel, I was again done for the day. Here I am now a few days later, and I was able to fully surround the foundation, so I'm hoping that there won't be too much standing water around these timbers and everything will drain away from it. It's hard to see it here, but there's a little space around the outside of the foundation for some soil to come back over the gravel around the perimeter, and then the Bermuda grass that we get down here in the summer grows on everything, so I'm hoping that the gravel border won't be too large. For the last step, I drove some rebar through the timbers and into the ground just to give it a little more stability and make things harder for the poor sap that tries to take this thing out someday. I went back and forth several times on how to build this foundation. I was thinking going way overboard, including poured concrete and as little as just some gravel on the grass. At the end of the day, it doesn't really need to be perfectly level, and if it ends up settling a little bit over time, it's not going to be a big deal. For my purposes, I think this is going to work just fine. Be sure to subscribe and follow along as I post the rest of this shed build and other woodworking and DIY projects around my house.